Okay, so let's just twist the spine a bit. Yeah, so basically the ego is constructed from a foundation of tension in the hips and the lower back, which is why meditation is so effective largely, because you're just sinking and swelling this area out. So we're just trying to relax that area, the lumbar spine and the hips. Sacroiliacs all around the sacrum, the hip joints in the legs. And then just inclining over the leg, just sort of tilting over the legs. And then the other one. And the other one again. So there's always one that's difficult. Way. And then just the hands on the floor. If you're sitting on a chair, then that you've just got to incline forwards more. Just feeling the ground. And just feel the structure of the hands. So the fingertips tend to naturally want to sort of press into the ground. And what that does, it draws the middle of the palm off the ground. So as you push the fingers into the ground, the middle of the palm is lifting. So the middle of the palm, it naturally sucks. It naturally draws energy into the arms. And it's the same with the foot. When the toes press into the ground, the middle of the foot will naturally arch away from the ground. And then just place the hands at like different places. So just as soon as you have a twist, as soon as you have like one hand behind, one hand in front, there's like a potential difference between them. And you can feel that there's a flow through your arm, through the arch of your arms and into the other hand. And then just behind just a bit. Yeah, so the muscles of your lower back are working to press the hands into the ground, and the muscles in your belly are working in order to support the back. Yeah, so there's two different types of work here. The work of actually doing something active, pressing the hands into the ground, and doing something more passive, which is just offering a support. So we'd like to just be able to distinguish between those different activities. And then when I have the hands in front, they just reverse. So now it's the belly muscles that are tightening in order to exert pressure on the ground through my arms. And my lower back is still tight, but stretched in order to support the belly. Or support the back, support the spine, really. You need to have like a girdle of muscular tension, like a belt around the spine. If you just tense the muscles one side, then you'll tend to injure the bones. Yeah, so just feel like the strength of the ground, the energy from the ground coming up the arms into the spine. And then you can just bring it up into the head or take it down into the sacrum. We just want the skeleton to just infuse with energy from the ground. And it's easier to feel it through the arms than it is with the legs, really, because, because of all the tension in the hips, it tends to stop it happening in the legs. Whereas we don't have that same tension here in the between the shoulder blades. And then just round once more. Just really use the muscles in the belly to exert pressure. And then the other side. And just feel the mood changing. Yeah, so you're sort of the ground, like an insect. I always feel like Gregor Samsa, the hero of Kafka's Metamorphosis, the one that changes into a cockroach. Okay, and then up. And now let's just work the belly. So just tightening the hands and just drawing the belly in and then releasing. Yeah, so just like a very primitive worm or something, like an animal that's just basically just one piece of muscle. Feeling the hands, the mouth, the eyes, the dantian and the anus as like as sphincters, as ring muscles. So I contract, I curl up, and then I open up. Yeah. And just making like a pump and just really getting into it, so it just becomes the only thing. We're just trying to get rid of that mind that's outside watching. We just want to get into the middle of the activity, into the real middle of the motor. Yes, it's like the anus, the sphincter around the urethra that stops your pee from leaking out, the dantian, the perineum, they're all sort of pulling towards each other here. As you pull in, it sort of all becomes just one thing, and then you release it and they separate. So pulling together and releasing, pulling. So this is like a Paula exercise. If you just carried on doing this for like 5-10 minutes, you'd go into spasm, like the body just starts going crazy, because it's like everything in your body becomes activated by it. There's a special energy to using the body as ring muscle. It's very, very primitive. Pull, push, close, open. Okay, and now let's try basically the same thing, but alternating one side and the other. So just start off with like palms like this, and then just make a fist with one hand and keep the other hand open. And then just alternate, clench the open one, open the closed one. So again, you start it off and just try your best to do it as fully as possible. And it sort of develops. It takes you somewhere. And just feel how when it naturally introduces a turn. So you start sort of doing this exercise a little bit. And it's a contraction. So when I tense this hand, it's not just the hand that curls up and tightens up, the whole side of the body. So it tends to make the spine tip as well. You're trying to just notice that, but keep it to a minimum so doesn't go too much. But just working. So this is the basic motor in the human body, because we've got two sides, left and right, and they're both pretty much symmetrical. So this is basically walking or swimming. So it's like the monkey swinging through the trees. One hand opens and reaches, and then grasps and pulls. So this is how we'd like to walk. One leg reaches out and pulls the ground towards it. And it is the way you walk. If you actually really watch it carefully when you walk, you don't thrust from the back leg, you actually pull with the front leg. Yeah, and then just notice how it's just basically figures of eights. What you're doing is figures of eights, really. When you open the hand, it's like you're going over the top of the figure of eight. And when you clench the hand, it's like you're coming under the bottom. So this is how basic the figure of eight is, really. It's really just the hand opening and closing. Ugh. Okay, so let's just start. by turning. And just feel the remnants of the previous exercise. Yeah, so when we're sitting down on the floor like that, cross-legged, it tends to immobilize the lower body, which is useful. But now we just want to bring the legs alive again. So as I open this hand, these toes really open. And as I close this hand behind me, this foot clenches the ground. So my legs and my feet are getting involved in the exercise. It's basically all the same. Everything is the same, pumping backwards and forwards. It's just the same exercise, just with different, different foot positions, different arm shapes. And then the form the same. Yeah, and just really putting your mind in the lower back, the hips, the dantian. Yeah, so in a way that like the surest indication of ego really is like when you see a middle-aged man with flab, with a paunch. We've got a guy in the class I've just taught, he had an operation a while ago, and so he's been inactive, so he's got even fatter. And you can see that the mass here really puts strain on his lower back, yeah. And so there's no way he can sort of draw this in and make this spread, but you can see that, as you settle into middle age, and normally by then you've got a good income, you've got the family, you're sure, you're settled, you're stable, and you've stopped venturing into the unknown, the place that you're terrified of. So it's just a sign of ego, really. So what we want to do is just get rid of that completely. So let's just stand a little bit. So just feel here this shape, yeah? So the hollow chest, the natural hollow chest that you have, the natural spread across the back into the arms, yeah? Okay, now if we want to make the spine the same from the min meng up and the min meng down, incorporating the legs as part of the lower spine, then basically this part has to do exactly the same. So that in the same way that my chest is hollowed and sort of coming in, not forcing it, it's just natural because of the shape of the arms. I want the same thing here. So like my dantian is sort of receding, and the sacrum and the lower back is rounding out in the same way that my upper back is. And then the feet can really sort of just take the ground rather than being stacked up from the ground like a stack of bricks with the head on high. So the ego requires like a hierarchy within the body. And basically what we're trying to do is produce just more like what Deleuze and Guattari called a body without organs, yeah? So almost like a body that's not organized in that hierarchical way. It just has a center, and then everything just revolves around that. And it's difficult. Okay, now let's just go back to this and just feel that. So just feel basically this whole area is always wanting to spread open. And any sort of sense of ego will tend to want to make the muscles across here sort of tighten. So this becomes hard and solid, and then you can be sure that you're right, yeah? And so we just want to really open that area up, and then everything just becomes sort of nebulous and sort of misty. And it's difficult, but it's real. Yeah, so that whole hip complex, the feeling that the sacrum is almost sort of floating, you know, like the hip bones, the sacroiliacs, that the hips are sort of not touching the sacrum almost. So like the sacrum is held in like a force field that's generated by your relationship with the ground and the quality of your legs, which is soft like tentacles. And no sense of energy being projected upwards into the head. The head is just like a periscope, like the top of the periscope. It's just collecting information. We want it all to be processed in the belly. So the brain in the belly, rather than the brain in the head. Because the brain in the head is just basically slow. No use in a fight. So gut feelings, that's what we're trying to activate. And it's difficult because that takes time, you see, because we've spent all our life overriding our gut feelings with our head, that when you quieten this down, it's like you're sort of just, nothing's happening because this hasn't woken up yet. This will take like years to wake up. So it's like no man's land. It's like a time of real loneliness, really. And then let's just go into this one. Again, just trying to keep it really connected to the ground through that open lower back. Because this one does tend to thrust everything up into the head as you settle into the back foot. So just keeping it round. The head should feel like it really does. It just wants to be on the ground. That's why like headstands are great. And like Roberto, when he prays. So Roberto is a devout Catholic. And he's found that the best posture for prayer is not hands together kneeling. He prays in the Muslim position with the head on the floor. Yeah, so just getting that sense of quietness in the head by actually just touching the ground with it. And it does something to the cranial plates as well. It's quite interesting. So we're just a bit too precious with our head. You know, so just resting it on the floor. So we're used to resting the back of the head, but to the front of the head, yeah. Yeah, so feeling the wings of the legs, you know, the same way we have these wings here that come out of the shoulders, there's wings here that come out of the back of the hips, round about the sacroiliacs. If you can get those, then this area will more likely to be right. Okay. Now let's just try the bouncing. Again, just keeping this really soft, really open here. And just all the time, we're trying to find the mind that would actually do what we're trying to do naturally. And so what's the shape of the mind? The body and the mind are just basically the same thing. And so when you create a shape with your body that's not normal for you, you're basically just having to try and create the same shape in your mind. So you get this feeling here like, ooh, like something's happening inside the head. Yeah, so something internal is mirroring what you're doing on the external. So we're using the external, the body, to teach the internal, the good mind, the big mind. And then they just bounce off each other. And then just alternating the arms. And again, this has a feeling of, the hands pumping. As soon as we alternate, we're just doing that exercise, however gently. Okay, now let's try just this one. And again, it's the same thing. So as I reach into this, as I'm coming over the top, this hand is really opening. And then this hand and this foot closes to pull me down into it. And then the other hand opens, and the other foot, and then that pulls to bring me across. So I'm just using that left, right exercise to produce a circle. So just feeling the lower back, trying not to stick your bum out when you come forwards. And just trying to make sure the feet remain as active as the hands. The feet are not just supporting you, they're moving you. So not the legs, the feet. And let's just change direction. There's a general election here today, so all the kids are off school. And then just back. Again, just feeling this big openness in the lower body. reaching down to the ground, but also just pulling the ground up into you, into the danchen. The same way when you're hugging someone, you know, your arms go behind them and draw them in. Yeah, this is just the same. And he says, hug the ground. Yeah, Israelis love hugs. And so you've got this sense here, mirrored by this sense here. Yeah, so they have to be balanced. And it's quite easy. You just sort of switch your mind from one to the other, just making sure that there's an evenness. We tend, obviously, to exaggerate the top one and ignore the bottom one. So that's the main adjustment that we need to make. Attend to the lower body. It says it in the classics. If there's anything wrong, look to the legs. And that's like a general principle, you know, so like even if something is wrong, not in a Tai Chi sense, you know, like you've got sick or you're worried about something. If there's something not right, look to your legs, look to your lower body. There's something, you're out of balance down there. And just remember, if you want this relaxation, there has to be a core of holding on tension. There's like a fist inside the danchen that's clenching, and that enables the vicinity to relax and open up. Without that, you'll dribble away, you'll dissipate, and also you'll always be tightening up again every time your mind leaves it. And that tightness, that core of tightness, a bit like that's your ruthlessness. It's just your inner steel, as John would call it. Okay, so now let's just loosen it. So just like jogging on the spot. So just very playful and light. Again, having a sense that the sacrum is hanging down like it's on the end of the plumb line. And the plumb line has got an elasticity to it. So there's a bit of a buoying. And just imagine you're a little bit drunk. So it's not just your body that's loose and gooey, it's everything. Everything is losing its shape. The ground is elastic and springy. So you're not quite sure where this is coming from. Is it coming from you, or is it coming from around you? So just try and keep it on the front of the foot so the heels don't really go down that much. And just keep the sacrum hanging. You don't want the action of your legs and your feet to push the sacrum up, because then this area will just start seizing up, and then that will promote the ego. And it's very much like being drunk, yeah? Not drunk, but tipsy. You know, after you've had a drink, you just all your cares and woes, all your worries just go. You think, where have they gone to? Yeah. And it's just, things just aren't important anymore. And you can just enjoy yourself, you can just relax. So the legs are softening by working in this loose, springy way. And just watch it. Yeah, because your mind, tension is always trying to reintroduce. And we tell ourselves it's because we're getting tired, but it's not really, it's because the ego is wanting to come back. Yeah, so you don't want to force it, but just try and relax through that. Yeah, so when the mind is relaxed, there's no words. Words are the product of an anxious mind. Okay. Now let's just squat. You just want to practice this enough so that something in you breathes a sigh of relief when you get down here. Yeah, so when you're squatting like this and the legs are really up and sort of pulled in, we're very much like the fetus, you know, towards the end of the term, when it's really tight inside the womb. Yeah, so the fetus it's not thinking in words, it's just feeling. It's just full of sensitivity and energy and movement. Yeah. So as it gets more and more cramped, the movement has to become more and more internalized. It's not able to sort of just wave its arms around and flex its back and everything. But it's just as active. Just feeling the cave of the body, your interior, where all your organs are. And then just rocking forwards onto the arms, feeling the arms filling up with strength. Bring the ground up to the back between the shoulder blades and let the ground distribute down your spine into your head and down into your tail. And just feel it empowering your spirit. So something in you is becoming really flamey, really hot. And just rocking back. So you can do what you like, really. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. So just feel the craniosacral system. So your skull traveling down the spine into the sacrum and the tail. So that is a closed system, relatively closed. And so it contains obviously your spinal cord and the brain. And they are surrounded by fluid, the craniosacral fluid. And that fluid is under pressure. So it's always sort of being absorbed slowly and gently back into the body. So the pressure is sort of decreasing gradually. And so what the body needs to do is pump in more fluid, and it does that in sort of bursts. And that creates the craniosacral rhythm. Yeah. So it's a bit like, you know, when you're standing by the sea on the beach, and like a wave comes in and maybe wets your feet, and then you watch it going out, and then another wave comes in, and it comes in over the top of that wave that's running out. So basically you've got new waves coming in, but there's these layers and layers of receding waves going out. You know, it's the same with the craniosacral fluid. It's the same with breathing. You know, you breathe in something, but the out breath is continuous. You're just breathing in over the out breath, really. So we just want to feel that. So breathing isn't really a piston action. It's like a constant out breath with injections of air coming in every now and then. And so that sort of constant out breath, that's mind. That, you know, they say that mind is basically space. You know, so when you get quiet inside, you just sense mind is not the activity of the mind. Mind is just everything. It's just the space that you're contained in. So it's that out breath, that long, never-ending out breath. That's like the space, and every now and then something rushes in because otherwise there'll be no oxygen to breathe. You know, so something in us can just relax into that out breath, can just relax into the infinite. And it's our activity, that sort of spirited muscularity, that's the in-breath, really. So clenching the hands, you know, pulling in towards you, biting. Okay, so now let's just come up again. So just feel how violent that is, pulling away from the ground. So something in you just wants to get back down there. Okay, now let's just bring the leg up. Yeah. So again, we'd like to retrieve that tightness that we had down there where the legs were sort of pulled into the side. Yeah, so when the knee comes up, it pulls the tail under. So this is what we're after. We're pulling the knee up in order to get the lower back stretching down and under into the tail. Yeah, so when we do the form, and every time we lift the foot, it's like we're just trying to retrieve this sort of egg shape, where we're sort of almost crouching and it's going underneath the foot. So we're very contained and smooth. And then the leg can reach out from that in order to step, and it reaches with really extended toes, because otherwise we produce tension here to get that reach, and that just, we lose it then. We lose the posture. So this is really important, this exercise. Yeah, so as I pull my knee up and I feel it stretching my lower back, how is that affecting my mind, my intensity? The spirit is being roused, it's being excited. Yeah, so every now and then, John would be in like a playful mood, and he'd just get into this sort of shape where he's like crouching. And then every now and then a hand would just whip out so fast and slap me. Yeah. And it's like you just couldn't see it. It was so quick. So this is the feeling here. We've become really compact, but we can just fire things out, fire the hand out without the back having to do this. Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of internal pressure. You're really compact and smooth, but there's a lot happening inside, like the fetus. The fetus is constrained by the womb. So it's like we have a womb. They say in Tai Chi, back to the womb. Imagine you're back in the womb. So here, whoa. And try not to lose it. So, when the leg goes back down, keep this feeling here. The leg goes down. I was doing this morning in the class I was teaching. And it did actually really change the energy. The mood changed. Okay, so let's now so keep that feeling and just bring it back. Yeah, so averagely, when you watch people, you can see that they're coming out all the time. Yeah. So what we want is this feeling that we're coming in all the time, and it's just building up that internal pressure. So every now and then you can just whip out and just kill someone. It just means you have to be really content on your own, with your own interiority, with your own shit. Yeah. And so it's just slowly just bucketing the shit out. So it's not quite such a disgusting place to dwell. Ooh. So the body without organs, God knows what it means, but it's a really interesting idea, concept. Yeah. So it doesn't have these different places that do different things. It's just one thing with a center, with a nucleus. That's it. And yet you feel, ooh, there's a little bit of extra pressure here by the shoulders, which is my wings. There's a little bit of extra pressure here, which is the wings of my legs. Yeah. So it's like intensities. It's like the gradients in the intensity, rather than these actualities. Yeah. So it all just hinges on that sort of central core of real sort of steely stillness. Yeah, so we like when you see a sports person in the zone and everything's just going so well. I think that's what it is. They've just got that. They've just got that core of ruthlessness, and then everything else is together. It's in sync. And it's a spirit. It's not a physical thing. It's a sense of spirit, spark, something in you. Okay, so let's just bring it up. And again, just really trying to can I straighten the legs without sticking my bum out? Just be, you don't want to, you just want to go into the form, you just want to start moving your energy around. Okay, so let's leave it